Welcome to the Deploy Securely podcast, where we go deep on the cybersecurity, privacy, and compliance implications of using artificial intelligence. I'm Walter Haydock, the founder of StackAware, and I'm joined by Steve Dufour, as always, for our monthly roundup of AI related events. Steve, good to see you again.
How we doing? What's up, chat?
We are live, so
Uh,
please
Yeah,
do ask any questions you might have. So, Steve, I'll let you kick it off because you're going to be the MC for the first part of this show.
yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's see if I can actually share my screen. Window. Here we go. All right, the first thing we're talking about is a major announcement, and it's only halfway major because Anthropic already had this capability. They did add, you can see this okay, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I mean, you might want to zoom in a bit.
all right, here, let's make that bigger. There you go. All right, so Anthropic released their cybersecurity tool called Claude Code Security. There was already certain commands within Claude where you have a block of code, it's connected to your Git repo or whatever it is. You do like front slash Claude code or review now or whatever that command is, and it would go through and make suggestions and also offer fixes for it. So this is supposed to go much deeper and across multiple domains, including like, oh, this particular package has a vulnerability, or this particular line of code itself allows for this particular harmful behavior, whatever it is, right? Um, I I don't have access to the tool, so like I'm super excited about it. Just reading the blurb, I checked Reddit, I checked various other places just to see if anybody had like a hands-on, like, hey, this is how it's actually working. It's worth it, not worth it, or like if you're already using something like, I don't know, Builder.io or something like that for some of your code, or even some of the like the newer startups, um, just stick with it because it's not worth it. I'm looking for anything. So if anybody in the chat or anybody reviewing this later on, either on YouTube or LinkedIn, feel free to leave a comment and just give your review of the product itself. Do you know of anybody using this?
Stackware does have a customer that is currently using it, and they are investigating it right now. Apparently, they're getting some good results from it. So
Nice.
the jury's out, but there is some use going on right now.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some of that feedback. Like whoever they are, like feel free to direct them to to the videos. That way they can put their review in there. It's just really exciting because like some of the use cases for AI, of course you have to have like your proper AI governance. And I highly recommend that whatever you're doing with AI, you should probably already know how to do that thing, right? And it's like, oh, I'm going to look at the version for a particular software package, right? Oh, it's 7.3. Then you go bump that up against like a list of known vulnerabilities for that thing, or you're an expert coder, right? You look at a line of code like, oh, that's bad, right? So you can already do all these things if you're using AI, an AI tool to help you do that thing faster, because you still have like um, human in the loop, right? Like that's accountable for a decision to like push code or install a particular package. So I'm all for this if it helps security teams move faster and find stuff that a classic scanner or something like that wouldn't find.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all about using AI to accelerate security and accelerate security for AI. You could have a uh, harmonious cycle there. So definitely a fan of that. I think you make some good points about the need for human in the loop. I've been experimenting with using some OpenAI capabilities to help with risk assessments. It can allow you to be more consistent, I think, if you're using kind of the same reasoning effort, the same model, that type of thing, where you're asking AI to evaluate a system and you give it a set of criteria, you give it a standard to evaluate against, you can actually get pretty good results there, I found. But the key is just to make sure that you are properly vetting the outputs. And, it's always going to be, it's going to be at best like a 90% solution at the end of the day. So you need to bring it the other 10% of the way.
Yeah, I found so I use AI specifically, like I'm really bad at grammar. Like I'll just create like a like a half page run-on sentence, right? Like it's just kind of like dumping out all my thoughts. So I'll use AI big time for grammar and make sure that something is concise or something like that. And of course, like I review it beforehand. And at the same time, um, I find myself, especially when I start talking about like security and governance and stuff like that, and one of the classic things, because it's trained on public data and books and everything else, right? So the classic definitions and the way security was done before. So we've got what, 25 years worth of IT technical books on security, right? And then on the other side, we have physical security, which is kind of left in the dark, right? Like nobody really talks about that. So whenever I'm writing, my profession, my professional paper or something like that, and I have a list of definitions and things like that, it's almost like it argues with me. It's like, no, Steve, like that's not the definition of security, like or like you're using it in the wrong tense. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like security is this feeling you get when you do all of these things appropriately, you know, to make companies less fragile type of thing, right? And it's arguing with me. So like I have to educate it on the fly. And even then it like I think you said it before in one of our other talks where um it's just predicting the next word, right? It's not actually reasoning anything. So based on the previous data, it's going to argue all day and night with me. And and just finally just tell it like just fix my grammar and that's it. And then just move on. All right. All right. So if anybody listening to this has used the Claude code, it would be great if you could drop some comments and let us know how it worked for you. All right, so next one. So it's a big day for Anthropic talk, right?
Big week
So
or month.
yeah, one one thing to note about this, Claude or Anthropic dropped this on February 20th. The stock market for various security firms like it dropped. I think they lost like $15 billion in value or like combined value. I don't know. So it's like when people read this headline, like, oh, Anthropic's changing the game of security, it's like the perception that other companies are in trouble because of the size of Anthropic and stuff like that. So, um, pretty sure the stock market went back up for those other guys after people actually read the article. So,
There have been a lot of big moves in the stock market related to AI, which we'll talk about a little bit more at the end of the show.
all right, I'll make this one bigger. All right, the next one, another Anthropic topic. There's, it's so difficult sometimes to figure out where companies stand on certain things like human rights, like if you're going to go through the Department of Defense or war or whatever it is, and basically like use this newer technology for the purposes of destruction, right? And so I think Anthropic was founded by one of the early OpenAI guys, right? Like went over and wanted to create guardrails and some type of ethical guideline for models, right? That way they wouldn't be misused. They were going to be the ones. So, and you're going to talk about something else later as far as the Anthropic and the government goes. It's just when we're evaluating companies, right? You have to remember this is just my personal opinion that companies are in it to make money. And at the same time, they can have an ethical choice. So, due to recent news, a lot of people are ditching OpenAI, right? Because they are partnering with the government and they're all going to Anthropic. So I just wanted to point out that Anthropic isn't, quote, perfect either, right? They're in it to make money, right? They want to make a difference in the world and whatever that means. So this article is talking about Anthropic bid for or made a proposal for $100 million Pentagon contract specifically for drone swarms. So, oh, I forgot to put the other link in the chat. So, any thoughts about this one? This one's pretty straightforward. It is more a call to like before you start hurling stones at OpenAI and canceling your subscription, going to another company where you perceive that one has an ethical choice versus the other. Like it's really hard to make that, I guess, ethical choice, realizing that most companies, let's just say a lot of companies, are in it for money, right?
I would say that basically every for-profit company is in it for money to some extent. Otherwise
Yeah.
they're not going to be hanging around for a long time. But I think this is part of a broader issue, and folks probably have seen the news where there's been something of a feud between the Department of War and Anthropic, specifically with respect to the use of Claude in certain use cases. And you know, from my understanding from press reporting, it sounds like the triggering event was the use of Claude to help plan the raid in which Delta Force captured Nicolas Maduro, the former, or I guess I don't know if he's the current Venezuelan president. I think that's kind of an academic question at this point because he's currently detained in the U.S. But that was kind of an interesting precursor for this debate because if you could go to the Anthropic statement, I think you have it up, the Anthropic statement about the Department of War.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could zoom in on that. So basically, essentially, what happened is that the Department of War has designated Anthropic what they call a supply chain risk, which has a very specific definition in U.S. law. And apparently, the impetus was the use of Claude to help plan that raid that I mentioned, which, based on this article, is not actually something that Anthropic is objecting to because the issue here is are two specific use cases where Anthropic refuses to allow the use of their models or systems in one domestic mass surveillance. And there's a statement by the Anthropic president mentioning about how the government can buy location data and things like that, which is completely legal under the law, although it is controversial. And then the second one is fully autonomous weapons, which you were describing pretty close, pretty highly autonomous weapons. And I think fully autonomous weapons, it's kind of I would say it's a question mark. It's a judgment call what exactly that means. But the key point of issue here was that the Department of War was saying that it demanded that Anthropic and all defense contractors agree to support all lawful uses of their technology. And Anthropic is saying yes with an asterisk, saying we won't do domestic mass surveillance and we won't do fully autonomous weapons. So, which neither of which are illegal under U.S. law. So that's kind of the crux of the issue, as I understand it. And I feel like it kind of an issue morphed into something different, whereby there was a minor dispute and it kind of spiraled out of control. And I think there are fair points on both sides. I think Secretary Hegseth has pointed out that the private companies don't dictate to the Department of War what its policy is and what its how it implements certain technologies is, and I certainly get that. I do understand on the Anthropic side of things their aversion to participating in certain uses of their technology, specifically on the mass surveillance side of things. Especially buying commercially available data and profiling Americans based on that. I think everyone has a bad taste in their mouths from some of the previous disclosures. But on the autonomous weapons side of thing, I feel like they were cutting it Anthropic was cutting it very finely, pointing out how like semi-autonomous weapons are so key to the defense of democracy. They're calling out Ukraine and things like that, but fully autonomous is not okay. And to my mind, like that's cutting it a little finely, and like where's fully and where's semi. So yeah, I think interesting story. I don't necessarily have a firm opinion either way. Although from a practical perspective, when Anthropic was designated as supply chain risk, it was basically fired by the Department of Defense, and every defense contractor for the United States who's using Anthropic for their DOW work needs to stop doing that, which has major economic implications for everyone. And then OpenAI, I think very soon thereafter, entered into negotiations with the Department of War to kind of fill the shoes of Anthropic. And I know there are some internal discussions inside OpenAI about whether that's the right move or not. But things move fast in AI world, and this is just another story in the saga.
Yeah. So that other article, it's probably still up there. It's called a voice activated drone swarm. And so that's what the original contract was for. That was $100 million. You have a series of drone, might have explosives on it or like something to that effect, right? So like swarming, hitting planes, buildings, whatever it happens to be, they enter the city and just kind of like disperse like cockroaches. And so if you have an autonomous version of that versus me saying attack Chicago or whatever it is, not much difference there. I don't like it. I'll have an opinion about it. I don't like it one bit. I think they're. Um, I'm not saying I like classic war, and at the same time, having never been in war, there's a difference between right, like video game hitting a button versus holding a rifle, right? I'm assuming so. Makes you a little bit
I can
hes
confirm that is true.
right, right, where being there and witnessing makes you more hesitant to go to war and also hopefully use weapons and capabilities such as this where it's easier to make poor choices because it's remote, right? Um, Scary stuff, man. Not gonna lie. I don't like it one bit. Oh, but that leads us to the next article. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about there?
No,
Like,
no, that's a good segue into the next piece about OpenAI kind of
yeah.
getting
And
a little bit of bad press.
I'm proud to say that I know plenty of people who have done this. So as soon as as soon as Anthropic made that stand, we're not going to do this, right? Tons of people were trying to figure out, well, how do I give all my Chat GPT and OpenAI settings over to Claude, right? Like they want to ditch OpenAI and go to Claude, which I like Claude. I've been using it for a few months now. It's good for my particular use case. Um, I think it's good, man. Like it's really good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Crystal's ditching OpenAI too. I'm not sure if I should have said that or not, but yeah, goodbye ChatGPT. Hello Claude. And probably if when I think whenever Anthropic saw how many people were signing up after all the stuff with OpenAI and the government happened, they saw so many people coming over that they they basically created a process for you open up Claude and says, "Do you want to import your Chat GPT settings or whatever?" And so you say yes, and it creates a prompt for you to throw into Chat GPT
Mm.
to grab all those particular configurations. Like, of course, you can request your data from OpenAI and stuff like that, but at least using Claude's process, they think they know what they're doing as far as like the memory and the responses and like how you actually want to be interacted with. Just find it very interesting that like people are flat out ditching ChatGPT, like they're making their own, stand against the man for their 20 to 25. Have you seen any companies ditching ChatGPT because of this? I know of individuals, like multiple individuals who are doing it.
I have not, no. And frankly, I think because of the supply chain risk designation, you're probably going to see the opposite, at least from defense contractors, because they are
Oh
not
yeah.
allowed to use Claude
Oh, so it's not going to
for
be a
their
huge,
DoW work.
so it's not going to be like a huge revenue shift in terms of Anthropic getting more revenue and profits and stuff like that, simply because like it's going to probably balance out. So DOW contractors and employees won't use it, but then civilians like flock over to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it remains to be seen how it will shake out, but yeah, I mean, StackAware is not taking a position on this particular issue, and as you can see from our software bill of materials, we're still using OpenAI, so no change to policy at present.
That's good, man. Yeah, so did yeah, added that one in there. Oh man, we're going really fast today. I need to settle down. All right, so to give you guys to give you guys whoever's listening, I don't even know if people are listening. Um,
People are listening.
oh, who's listening?
Yeah, we got
Oh, Crystal's here.
yeah, that's right. We have 6 event views. On link, that's
Nice.
just LinkedIn. That doesn't count YouTube.
Oh, should we open up YouTube and hit the refresh button and see who's there?
I don't think we need to focus too closely on that.
Oh, okay. Um, so to get it, so whoever's watching this presently or in the future, uh, Crystal made a prediction that I adopted as my own that AI would put out so much content and it would be so lopsided in terms of delivery, tone, and like you name it. So if you're a marketing person and you're like, oh, I'm going to write about my product, the advantages, all this other stuff, you go to LinkedIn and you see a post by somebody and you end up realizing that it's large language model generated, right? You and I have talked about it before. I won't go into the details of it, but you can just tell. So over time, it just got worse and worse and worse. People just want hits, right? Like, want to use the thing that gets the most views. Therefore, like my sales cycle and like funnel is like full because of all this stuff. I don't really care if it's slop or not. And so that's what ended up happening. So LinkedIn, well, Twitter or X was already like this before, but now it's even worse. All social medias are now filled with just AI slop. It's just AI generating more AI based on AI. So it's like regurgitating the same thing over and over again. So here's the article. It's called There's a Grim New Expression AIDR, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Didn't Read. So previously, we would say too long didn't read. Now, based on people being bombarded by AI slop. I mean, it could be extremely well written, and at the same time, you can still tell it's AI and just get tired of it. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It lacks heart or whatever you want to do to describe it. It lacks punctuation mistakes, right? So, like, over time, over time, like, you just get sick of it. And so you end up valuing the human input and the human who actually wrote something, created something, designed something, took took enough time to actually create it and post it and interact with their people and stuff like that, to where there ends up being a renaissance, right? So like at first, all of the large language models, artificial image generation, like all of these things was very like novel, new. Everybody's excited about it. Remember on LinkedIn, everybody was creating action figures for themselves and stuff like that. Like it was fun. And then you have to think, okay, fun time is over. We can still have slight fun, but let's get back to how I can help you, you can help me, and like we can make the world a better place, or whatever it is your mission is of your company. So now this new trend is if somebody senses that it's AI within the first couple sentences, they stop reading. That's the gist of this. And I 100% agree with it. Uh, on LinkedIn, if I see something's AI, I just scroll right past it. I don't stop and read it. It's got the rocket ships and the stop and like all these emojis and stuff like that. So it's a hard pass for me, man. Don't want it. How about you?
I will say that there are a lot of people who comment on some of my posts that are clearly just auto generated with AI. The thing is, though, they are helping me by boosting my reach, so
Hmm.
I'm not going to complain. And even though I know that it's AI that I'm responding to, I just reply to their comments as if they're human generated. Take it at face value, even though I know behind the scenes it's just an automation bot.
Yeah, and so I did not okay this question with you before I'm about to ask you. So when you're generating content to either email or do on LinkedIn or like even some of these videos, like you sit down and write your script using your knowledge. Well, you probably got a lot you reuse and stuff like that because you've been in business for a few years. So like even if you have a brand new concept you want to do you pick up a pen and paper, generate something, leave it around for a few days and edit it? Like, what's your creative process like specifically for Stack Aware copy?
There are probably three different sources for it. So one would be I do actually use pen and paper mainly to take notes when I'm about to go to bed because I don't want to look at my screens beforehand. So some ideas will come out there, and I write them down, and that'll be kind of the germination of it. And then a second category, which kind of relates to the first, is communicating with clients. Like I talk to clients a lot, I talk to prospects a lot, and their concerns and their questions and things like that are often the drivers for content that I generate. So, if I don't have explicit permission, then I'll anonymize it so that it's not, I'm not revealing a person's identity. Some people are fine to be quoted directly. And I will take kind of that initial quotation or that hook, and then I will use AI to remix it, to build it out, to add additional context, things like that. I do a lot of voice notes with AI. I'll record myself. I'll say, "Hey, here's a quotation from a prospective customer. Here are the key things I want you to pull out," and I'll give my stream of consciousness to ChatGPT. And then also I've done a lot of work in like giving it instructions and how to write what how to present information, how to package it for LinkedIn, how to make sure it's readable, skimmable, all that. And then I will put that out there. And then my emails are usually just expanded LinkedIn posts, the LinkedIn posts that do well. I will expand those. And then there's kind of a third bucket, which is when I'm on podcasts like this or doing any sort of video interview, I almost always record myself on just my end so that I have a copy of me talking. And then I will transcribe what I'm saying using AI and then break it down into structured post for for to accompany the video clip or to be a standalone piece of content.
Nice. Sounds like a good process. What's really cool is you could do all that stuff manually, but you
I could.
adapted
It would
it.
just take a
You
lot
did,
longer.
right, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
whole point of these models is like whatever you can currently do, you can do it faster, right? And they're potentially better, right? Yeah, thanks for sharing your process. Like that's very
Yeah.
interesting, how you do it. Um, yeah, let's go to the last one. Uh-huh. It's another futurism article. So like now everybody knows my source, futurism. Futurism.com. It's got great articles. They just bash tech like left and right. Might be my favorite news website. But you can see this all right, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's movies. When you go to the movie theater, if you get there early enough, there's always some kind of like 10-minute prelude before the trailer and like before they do some kind of advertisement for like popcorn and soda. So they'll do like a short film or something like that. So this was really big at the Alamo Draft House in central, like in the central. I don't know if it was nationwide. I'm pretty sure it was only central Texas, where it was a very like cool hipster vibe place, right? You go in and like people bring you food and stuff like that. They always had some kind of like mini movie beforehand. And so this kind of goes along with that, where there was some kind of miniature movie before the trailers and before the advertisements. And people complained so much about it because it was AI generated and it was ridiculous. So this kind of supports that renaissance. Oh, let's forget renaissance. It's a revolt, right? Where if maybe you watched it at home or something like that, it might be okay, but I don't want to pay, like $30 to go to a movie and see a bunch of AI slop on the screen. So people's comments and it was like awful, can't believe I did this. Um, and eventually they just pulled it because they got so many complaints. So like just completely from every AMC movie theater in which it was distributed. So again, people using AI or some variation or form of it, video generation, text generation, like for a script and stuff like that, and like even prompt generation, right? So like I'm going to use one large language model to help me generate the prompt to throw into a better model, maybe from some other company, to generate a script that will help me generate a video for the short movie that I want to make in this other model over here. So it's a whole bunch of different moving pieces where the people doing this might not actually be filmmakers, right? They may know of films, they know basic premise of a story or whatever, and at the same time it's still lacking that heart or like that professional eye of like what is acceptable and what's not, to where what was that thing, like a turkey? It was like a turkey in like a astronaut outfit going on an adventure in space. I don't know, it says somewhere in here about more about it, but it's just like all animals that can talk are ridiculous, but this is over the top. And so I'm gonna hunt for the video and I'll post it in in this chat after we get done with the webinar. But like any thoughts about this slop? I call it slop, but like somebody made it like might have poured their heart into it, but like I really think it has to do with the revolt of we want humans creating things that art, right? Things that we're gonna like feel in some way, shape, or another. Like we don't want our art created by something artificial.
I'm going to take a contrarian view and I'll say
Oh,
that yeah, the reason people have a problem with it is because it's just not very good.
oh. So if
The
it was
way
good, it would stick
If
around?
it were good, then I don't think people would be having any problem with it. And frankly, in 5 years, our concept of movies, for example, and even music, I think is going to change radically. I think in 5 years, there's not going to be a show, there's not going to be a movie, there's just going to be an app. It's going to be the Netflix app or it's going to be the Spotify or something. And there's going to be no UI. There's going to be just one button, which is start and stop. That's it. And it's just going to continuously create completely tailored content for every single user that is exactly what they want to see or hear. And it's going to be the most engaging. It's going to be the most, kind of all consuming content you could possibly imagine. There aren't going to be ads anymore. It's just going to be like product placements in the middle, in stride in the content that are targeted to you. It's going to be nuts. That's my prediction in 5 years. So, 2031, here we come.
So within 5 years or like 2031, that's the hard prediction date.
I mean, within 5 years, I think that's what
Uh,
content is gonna be.
dude,
It's
dude,
gonna be, yeah.
that's a hardcore prediction because when I hear that, I think that's the opposite of current engagement with social media firms, right? So like I know LinkedIn knows that I hate the AI generated content with the rocket ships, but I keep seeing it, right? You go to Twitter, it learns what provokes you, so like it gets you hooked on those rabbit holes, especially the dark ones, right? So yeah, that is content you want. So the content you want or the content that you engage with.
The content that you consume, because
Okay.
it's all
So
about it's all about ad revenue at the end of the day. I mean, that's what media that's the media business. It's an
right.
ad business
That's
for
so
the most
weird.
part. I mean, there are subscription services, obviously Netflix and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but most
All
people
right.
aren't using those.
Yeah, so you've heard it here, folks. Like Walter is making a 5 year prediction
That's right.
in what will
You can
be.
timestamp me.
We'll hold you accountable for this.
Hold me accountable, please do, please do. I've made some pretty bold predictions on air, so to speak. I think one was about the EU AI Act, which I feel like that prediction is aging quite well because I predicted that there would be a last minute panic as the high risk restrictions came into force, which is currently happening right now. So I'm feeling good about, maybe I shouldn't get too overconfident, or maybe I should just bet on Poly Market.
Hey, was there one more thing you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
do
go
want to
for
talk
it.
about this. So this, I will. The final piece here is a memo that a firm called Centrini Research put out. Yeah, the 2028 global intelligence crisis. This actually sparked like a sell off in the markets when it went out, I think last Sunday night. And then the next day, major, I think like the entire S&P went down pretty aggressively. And essentially the thesis is that this is a future observation of essentially the past, call it 24 or 26, 28 months. So it's looking backward from June 2028 and essentially saying that, the unemployment rate's 10.2%, that like, but then there was a huge, or that's because there was a huge wave of layoffs and, companies took advantage of this and like they improved their bottom line, but there was essentially became what this report calls ghost GDP, where like there's lots of efficiency gains, but there's like nothing, not actually anything happening. Um, because all these white collar workers get laid off and essentially consumption starts to drop as a result. So essentially, this is the doomsday scenario in the sense that humanity is not wiped out, but in that AI takes everyone's jobs and displaces all these workers and creates economic chaos. So this caused quite a stir, and I know I'm a little bit late, but I think it's an interesting piece to think about the future and potentially near-term future at that. And it looks like Steve is frozen.
Hey, I'm
You
back.
got me? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
Last thing I heard was, you're a little bit late.
I knew I'm a little bit late because this came out like a week ago, a little more than a week ago, which in AI time is eons, but still recommend taking a look.
Yeah, this is one of the core questions that like we have in the household where there's a perception around large and small models. We'll just call them AI generally speaking, right? What happens when it displaces all of those workers who then have no income to buy the products that are now being advertised through the models? And like you have AI creating marketing campaigns like buy our products, and then you have a high unemployment rate, then people aren't going to buy it. So historically, there was always up and down waves of economics, right? So, oh, the market's turning down, we're going to lay off people. It turns around in 6 months or 8 months or a year or whatever. Like there's always a recovery, like with knowledge workers becoming unemployed. Um, like what's going to happen? So I don't like it. Just throw that out there. So that is a doomsday scenario for me because like how are people going to, feed their families, like pay their bills, whatever it happens to be? Like, do you have any, hey, prediction by 2031 we're going to whatever it happens to be? It's like so typewriter came out, right? Then you have all the people who would transcribe, printing press, like all this stuff. Then you have computer or electric typewriter, computer, like so on and so forth, until kids don't even know how to write cursive anymore, right? So like, there's obviously technological advances that opened up new opportunities, but also new market opportunities and new job opportunities for people. Do you have any prediction for what that new market is going to be? So me as a knowledge worker, like I do X, Y, and Z, right? I work for a company that does something, AI displaces me, like I'm now jobless. Like any idea where I might go?
I agree that the first part of your statement is true, but I don't have an answer to the second part. And, to be very frank, like a lot of knowledge workers don't actually do anything. So I think there are a lot of jobs that are going to go away that should go away because a lot of white collar work is like converting an Excel to a PowerPoint and a PowerPoint to an Excel. And I think even without AI, like there's so much to be gained from like automating data pipelines and things like that, and just even deterministic systems like technology that's not just like modern, but it's like 10 years ago, would really ultimately displace a lot of white collar workers. So yeah, I think there's going to be huge displacement. I don't know what is going to replace it. I mean, we can talk about universal basic income if that's something that is going to make sense. I think it might in the future. And yeah, I mean, we can dive into the policy of it. My only perspective is that yeah, if we want to do universal basic income, that's fine, but that's just going to incorporate every other welfare program too. We're not just going to layer on another thing on top of everything else. Not if I'm voting on it, but obviously people take into account what I say very very closely when they're making national policy.
Yeah, so when you were talking about just now, like I ended up with the shortened phrase, it's going to trim the fat off the bureaucracy that already exists.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Nice.
And the thing is, even if model development stopped now, and the models we have today are the most powerful models that we could ever have, the entire economy will still be transformed over the coming years because there's so much that's being done right now that's not even like attempting to leverage these things. They're not even in many or most companies. Like not most companies are not using AI in any intentional way at all. The only way they're doing it is through some vendor, in which they're unintentionally using AI features, but many companies aren't even using AI at all right now.
That holds true for, well, we saw the Department of War using Anthropic and potentially OpenAI. So, like, I don't know the federal government's procurement process. I know at companies, like, so for the companies that I work for, there's a process you have to follow to onboard a vendor and use a vendor and to pay a vendor and stuff like that. So it makes sense. But to your point, the average corporate worker, like, hey, I'm going to go into work today, doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes of that SaaS product that they're using for something, right? So I'm not picking on Adobe. I love Adobe, but they have AI in their products like in the background running. So, I mean, you could prompt something like an image generation or a generative expand or something like that for your either your photos or your vector artwork work and stuff like that. And at the same time, whatever you prompt it with, pretty sure last time I read it, it becomes the property of Adobe. So it's like
Mm.
in some way, shape, or form, you were interacting with AI at these companies, specifically if you have any third-party tools. Chances are you're using it somewhere. Um, yeah, it's very interesting how all this is. Yeah, that's a really good point. So maybe like if model generate like the creation of new models stopped, it would give the government and slower organizations like older organizations that have a more defined governance process time to catch up with other companies, maybe.
Maybe I'm not advocating for that. I'm just using that as an example or an illustration of how companies would be transformed kind of anyway, even if there's not a kind of an explosion in AI capabilities, the economy is going to be transformed because there's still so many companies that are doing things in very inefficient and outdated ways.
It's those older companies, man.
Probably. But
I've
some
worked
are,
at a,
some are picking up, some are, adapting and adjusting and things like that. You're seeing old brands like, Disney, for example, is being pretty forward leaning. They entered into that partnership with OpenAI. So I don't think it's just necessarily like older companies, because companies that have been around for that long have like developed an institutional way to innovate. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived. I think there are companies that maybe, the founder is still there and has been doing it. He's been doing it for 30 years, and he knows how it's done, and that might have worked for the past 30 years, but I don't think it'll work for the next 30 years.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, especially when, so if you look at the classical model of like a business, so you have like not picking on 3M, but I work for them, so like kind of see how they run. It's like physical product company, right? And that's what they do if they want other capability. And it's not just 3M. We're talking about like a classical older business that does certain things, will acquire the technology through an acquisition, right? Like, oh, we want to do this new thing. We don't want to spend, $1 billion for the investment to, come up with a product team. We'll just find one that already exists, acquire it, test it out, and if it doesn't work out, then you kind of release that division back into the wild, right? Which happens quite often. Um, Apple's another really good example where the company is doing hardware type things, and then they start slowly branching off into software and services, right? Like specifically like their cloud infrastructure, where Tim Cook was fantastic from the operational side, right? Like let's get these people subscriptions to these services, right? Like let's integrate like the entire ecosystem and stuff like that. And then we still see it where Apple is acquiring AI companies, right? Like they realize that they lack in a certain way into a pivot into a market that they're they either don't want to invest that capital into, right? Because it's already been done and done extremely well, or they just see that opportunity and they want to move faster. Because if you're developing the software or the capabilities on your own, all by yourself, a lot of time it takes a lot longer, especially with larger companies that have um, let's say more of a risk to brand reputation, right? So I think Apple learned its lesson. Can't remember the year, but the year they released Apple Maps and people started like driving into lakes or something like that. So that had like like a reputational harm that goes because they're releasing a new product and it wasn't potentially tested appropriately or whatever. It wasn't ready for release. So they learned their lesson there. They're taking their time with the AI portions of it, making strategic acquisitions in the AI market, and hopefully come out with something like really cool soon. Uh, this is a good talk, man. I feel like we're like covering all the things. We talk about Anthropic, we talk about drone swarms, we talked about the Department of War, talk about economics. Oh, you made your prediction for 2031?
That's right. All sorts of wholesome family fun on the Deploy Securely podcast.
That's right. That's all I had for
Well,
today, man.
cool. Yeah, yeah, good chat. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. So, to our audience, thank you very much for joining in. This has been the Deploy Securely podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye.